stuck into the big topic of today, which is the festival. We've got all the judges here. We're pretty excited. So before we get started, I just want to get... We've had Dashan on before. I just want to do a bit of a background. Amelia, so how long have you been in China for now?
I've been here for 18 months.
18 months?
Yeah.
How's that been?
Pretty good. So still not very long, but still long enough, I think, to be...
But still feels like a lifetime?
Yeah, definitely. I came with my little son and my husband, and I guess maybe my focus was more on looking after my son rather than anything that I was doing. So it took a long while to settle in. We had friends who moved to Vancouver around the same time as we moved to Shanghai. And after 3 months, my friend was like, yeah, no worries, the girls are great, and I'm doing all these things. And I was like, I can't talk to the taxi people.
I can't get home.
Yeah.
The taxi people, like there's a small race of like, hello, where you go, lady?
And then, of course, I was relying on all taxi cards all the time and using the apps that not being able to work with VPN and everything like that. So
you're going like this with your phone, thinking
time.
You're saying, this is my address, and all they're hearing is, please cheat me,
yeah.
Take me for a very long ride. I don't know where I am.
Yeah, but no, we love Shanghai, so we're very happy to be here.
Are you getting used to it?
Yeah. And I think taking Chinese lessons has helped me a lot. And now I feel like I'm comfortable enough about getting around town and doing the things that I like doing. And I'm so much more well-connected. It took a year, I think, for me to feel connected with the city, with friends and networks. But I really enjoy my time here.
And so, Keith, you also, is it fair to say a life goal to come to China?
Very much so, ever since I saw Big Bird on the big wall. Which is sincere. I mean, I was a kid and I saw it and I was just fascinated by China ever since. And so, it's been a lifetime goal. And I wanted to let you know that I've been here for approximately 336 hours.
That's great to know.
Yeah, it sounded like such a small number compared to all of you if I said it in days.
Yeah, how many hours have you been in China?
Well, I noticed that you're the parent of a small child by 18 months. Like most people would have said a year and a half. But when you have a kid, you're like, no, they're 26 months old.
Yeah, it's like each number there's a story for
every month counts.
Yeah, that's right.
Every hour counts here.
Has it been everything that Big Bird led you to believe it would be?
Well, I didn't get to see the wall yet, so now you have to bring me back.
I was thinking you may be more disappointed that there's no birds here.
Right. No, I've seen them. They're in cages, but I've seen them, or on plates.
Or on plates.
Quite complete with heads and everything. That's nice. No, I love it. It's been absolutely amazing, and other than very much missing my family, I'd love to stay longer.
What's
great.
been the highlight so far?
I really like exploring the food. That's been fun.
Because you don't eat much. Like
no, that's not true. I mean, I'm vegan.
You're like a vegan level 8.
But there's still a lot of food.
Vegan level 8? Is it like, are there levels like in Scientology?
Yeah, it's like The Simpsons. He doesn't eat anything which casts a shadow.
Yeah. No, last night I had... okay, now when you're vegan and you're traveling somewhere where you don't speak the language, there's a little bit of well, screw it, I'm going to eat it. So I had some things that I don't know what was in them. Last night I ate a black seed pudding soup. Very bizarre looking.
Oh, we call that gutter oil.
Yeah, I had some. It was delicious. No, this was sweet gutter oil, though.
Black sesame.
That's
black
what it was.
sesame paste, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
safe. Relatively safe.
Yeah,
Safe for vegans?
Had some peanuts on top, and
some shredded pork. They love that.
Yeah. So we went to a Japanese restaurant right around the corner, and they told the woman that I didn't eat meat. And then they told her I didn't drink, and I was like, she doesn't need to know my life story. Just tell her no, thank you to the beer, And
he also has a normal-sized penis.
Right. She says he doesn't eat meat or doesn't drink, and Muhammad said right, and she said, and crossed herself, asking if and Muhammad answers, no, he hates God. And I said, Muhammad, stop! Like no more information about me to the waitress.
Here's a list of his fears.
That'll ingratiate you people in China, though. To people in China, right?
Well, I don't think they care.
Being Christian.
No, hating God.
Oh, right.
Nobody hugged me. Oh, bless you. No,
I think people want you to eat meat more than love God.
Yeah, quick correction. I do not hate God. That's not an accurate description of my beliefs.
I don't know. He can be an asshole sometimes, I think.
I don't know if people understand veganism though. You just have to tell them you're Buddhist.
Right. We went to a Buddhist restaurant. Yeah.
That's the workaround.
So we've had a pretty good festival so far. I was pretty happy with how it played out.
Congratulations, it was great.
Yeah, well
did
done.
you enjoy it?
Yeah. It was a big success, full rooms, amazing level of talent.
It really was good enough.
It was good enough. Yeah.
Not just good.
Have you done many? Because Amelia, you've done the Melbourne Comedy Festival. You've been a judge there.
Yeah, I've been a judge and definitely been a producer for a radio station that covered the Melbourne Comedy Festival, the Sydney Festival, the Adelaide Fringe, Brisbane. So definitely all Australian festivals.
And the Melbourne Festival is, I think, the third biggest in the world, right?
Yeah, it's definitely up there with. I think it goes Adelaide, Edinburgh Fringe, Montreal. Is very Montreal. My pronunciation is probably not right.
Montreal.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Get the
And then
Canadian
Melbourne just had their 30th anniversary this weekend. So the festival is on in Melbourne at the moment, and it's 30th birthday celebrations. And I think I first went when I was 12, so it was over 20 years ago. And I remember seeing Julian Clary and Sean Hughes was Sean Hughes was one of my favourite comedians randomly as a 13-year-old. And so the festival in Melbourne is so. Everyone's grown up with it, and
I mean, this is
amazing.
This is a small room,
yeah,
compared to the festival. I mean, this is like
one
of hundreds. And
and in Melbourne, I think it's similar to the Scottish and the Canada ones that you can just run around the city, and there's just show after show after show. And so, as a judge in Melbourne, I would see maybe 5 shows a day, and that's not even that much compared to Edinburgh. And I would, because of the radio station I worked at, I would see a lot of the newcomers. So I'd see people who have been doing comedy for 20 years and then see people who have just started just doing their first 45 minutes of comedy. And that contrast, I just love seeing new people who are just in their first year or two through to people who have been doing it for such a long time. So you can just see all sorts.
And Storm is there at the moment as well, which is amazing.
So Storm's there now, and he's part of the Comedy Zone Asia that the festival have grouped together. They've curated, and as far as I can tell with Storm's updates and just looking
I love his
Twitter,
updates.
It's so
just killed on stage. It feels so good. I like killing. It's like, what a great insight, Storm.
I've been really worried while in China about posting things like, I just killed in China, or I just bombed in China. I'm like, are the police going to come? Like, I was very funny.
I helped him check in online today.
Oh, you were such a jerk.
And I said, if anyone asks, you have a bomb in your bag. And he's like, why would you put that on WeChat? I'm like, no one cares about it. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll see.
So and like judging all these people, you probably see some wacky acts. Maybe I'm asking.
Like I think just all sorts of comedy and all sorts of different styles and different, I guess, developments in people's career and lots of new things or people testing out, I guess, that kind of innovative styles of comedy. Or I would never be able to do comedy, and I love it so much, maybe because I know I would never be able to do it. I'm in awe of people who do. And so seeing all the different kinds that people can come, and realistically sometimes you're like, oh yeah, this is that kind of style of person or whatever, and you're so surprised by their stories or the extra personal level that people have to their set. It's amazing.
I feel like there can't be too many lineups with such a diverse background here. You know, we had Egyptians, French people, you know, Misha's from Belarus, we had Chinese, Japanese.
Yeah, it's so
Korean.
good.
No.
That's right. No, in the final 8, there was 1 American and 1 Brit. Is that right?
In the final 8.
2 Americans, Joe and Drew.
Joe and Drew, 2 Americans. I always think he's Chinese. Drew, okay.
Drew's a lot, yeah.
I think he's not of this earth.
Yeah.
But
I mean, basically that means like 2 or 3 of the 8 were from like mainstream stand-up comedy countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you done many festivals elsewhere?
Yeah, the San Francisco Sketch Fest I've done a gang of times, which is right by my house, and then Bridgetown in Portland is getting bigger and bigger every year as well, and then like Out of Bounds in Austin. And the one thing that this one was lacking was they supply us with donuts and alcohol like pretty much all weekend the whole time.
Really?
They get a donut place to sponsor it. Like by the last day, you're like, I'm so tired of donuts, but I'm not going to spend money on food. My favorite thing is in Bridgetown in Portland, Oregon, they do the donuts and there's so much booze, and then some yoga studio offered free yoga, and I was like, I so don't want to be in that yoga class with hungover comics just like farting up a storm trying to get into unnatural positions.
Oh man, people can't laugh at farts, but I'm so ready to do that. And my brother has a bad back, and he can only go to a yoga studio on a Saturday morning with all these young mothers, you know,
Right.
the hot mums, and they come in and they put their babies there, and he's sitting there getting his leg out, and he just went, and he's sort of stretched into it, and the lady behind him goes, "It was the guy." He's the only guy in there as well. That was my contribution. So what do you think about? Because you saw the Chinese festival. We've got the final tonight.
Yeah,
How did the English compare to the Chinese? Do you think?
Well,
Between the
it
two?
really is two different worlds, which is, I mean,
A shame, really.
Yeah.
We try to push it together, but they're too different.
But the comedy, even though it's stand-up comedy, okay, even you just change the language, but the whole sort of cultural background, the audience, everything changes. So it just always seems to be like two separate worlds. And even though we bring them together here on this one stage, it's still like two universes that it's either, you know, flips this way or that way. It's never halfway in between.
Well, you had mentioned that Drew performs
So he's an
both.
exception. That's why I'm
And
thinking
Andy,
he's
you,
Chinese.
You perform both as well.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, really, even translating jokes is hard. I mean, I'm getting better at it, but it just, your references are all different. And you know, with stand-up generally, you don't know what's going to work. You have an idea what might work. So if I have a hit rate of whatever my average is of figuring it out in English, it's way lower in Chinese.
Well, you said
try an idea and everyone's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
What about just what they find funny? Like, that's got to be really different, right? The sense of humor beyond the references.
No, I think the sense of humor is the same, but you've got to understand the references and what
The references are
Yeah, the
different. That's right. The
references.
Chinese will always tell you the sense of humor is different. But when you ever ask people like to explain how, they never come up with a good example or a good reason. It's always just an assumption. They must be different.
Right.
Well, certain things, I mean, listening to Storm talk about it, about like talking about how different things are taboo. Like he was saying, he has a joke about his parents being divorced, and about how he said he could feel the crowd pull away. They were like, ooh, like they found it to be very touchy, and like obviously in America, it's like, oh, your parents are still together? That you're weird, you know. But he said like that sort of thing is really not.
But
like-
Storm is also kind of a special case because of all the Chinese performers, he's probably the most hip-hop. He's the most Western.
Even more than, well, hip-hop and Western are different. Chudza, I feel, is like pretty...
No, I find his Storm is like really American feeling kind of comedy. Even in Chinese, it's an American style of comedy.
He has a Western logic to his humor. He also tries to do stuff which is like, he's got one joke that works in English, but not so well in Chinese, where he's slitting his wrists.
Oh,
and his
wow.
girlfriend's slitting his wrists, and they're arguing while they're slitting each other's wrists. And he did that in Chinese, and it was a little much for most people.
Yeah, boy, in English, that
Sounds
worked.
hilarious, right?
Yeah.
So there we were killing ourselves.
Yeah.
And
And he's like, yeah, and it turns out we were on a bus. You know, that was
Right.
the punchline at the end of it. The generic
yeah, I'm
punchline.
hoping this is something's lost in translation.
Wait, turns out they're on a bus?
I'm making fun of Steve Lee does that. Stuart Lee does that thing where he says that comedians is this the hacky joke.
Oh, as you
To
pull
say-
back the camera?
Exactly.
Right.
You say, yeah. So I was having sex the other day on a bus.
Right.
Like,
I think it'd be more like jerking off or something. Right?
What I love about Stuart Lee is he's like Penn and Teller pissed off all the magicians by showing us how tricks are done.
Yeah, it's the
So
same
they had to
thing.
come up with new tricks, and Stuart Lee's all, here's how we make you laugh. And you're like, stop it, Stuart!
This is what you're laughing at. Yeah,
Right.
it makes it hard to do comedy. If you did a joke in English actually. Here.
I did one joke in English on this stage, which was I'm quite open to say I stole it from Joe. I think it was
Oh, it was
on this
on the podcast.
wasn't it?
Ah.
It was a joke from this podcast.
It all circles
Man, did
back
I
around.
cash in on that one?
That's so funny. So we were joking. Like Joe and I started this podcast thinking that no one would be listening, you know, and then we were making a joke that involved Dashan, and he sends me a
So,
message going,
okay,
yeah,
but
yeah,
here-
good one. I was like, what?
But that's a good example of why I only do Chinese, because I just think if I was to do English, it's not just a question of translation. It would be a totally different endeavor, starting over from the beginning.
Yeah, yes and no.
And so the reason is, like, that joke is a joke about me and my character and my fame. And if you don't know that background, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Right?
yeah.
It's about how, the way people look at Dashan, whether you're in a second tier or a third tier or a fourth tier city.
What's the joke,
Right.
Joe? Come on.
The joke was, because I lived in Tianjin in 2004, which, you know, when you're there, like, the foreigner, everybody compares you to Dashan. Like, that's their sort of
Reference point.
reference point for all foreigners. Like they've seen this one foreigner. I mean, you're basically like the ambassador for all
White people.
white people. Yeah, outside of China, because China is a very insulated country. Like it just is. Like they, that's like Storm's joke about like.
Unfortunately, my apartment's not insulated at all. I don't like the country. Hey.
Fuck's sake, man. Let's take a moment.
That felt good. I liked it.
He wants to take a shower. No,
So I did switch it up a bit though. The joke.
Did you switch it up? I mean, I think it was something like.
Added punchlines.
Well, I can't remember what it was.
You start with the second tier. In a second tier city, first of all, we don't talk about like tiered cities in the West much, but you kind of get the idea, right? Shanghai is first tier. In a second tier city, people will ask you if you know Dashan, right?
Right.
In a third tier city, people will ask you if you are Dashan.
Yeah.
Right? In a fourth tier city, they won't ask. They'll just assume you are Dashan. And then in a first tier city like Shanghai, they don't ask either because they just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Just imagine Joe in Tianjin, on MySpace. They're like, "Are you Dashan?" He's like, "Yes, I'm Dashan." Tonight.
Do you want to come watch a DVD?
Well, we walked into the Camel in Suzhou, and the waitresses were all coming over, and Andy was telling me they think you're Dashan. They're looking at me like, "Did Dashan grow a beard?"
Like, Dashan looks great.
They're like, this happens to Western people. If they take a shower at night, they wake up with a beard.
Yeah, you just gotta water it.
Weird superstitions. It's like Gremlins, if you eat after midnight.
I don't know where to go from there. It's great. What's been the highlight of the festival so far for you? Anyone, chime in. Anything particular? Was there anyone you liked?
Dude, I got to meet Dashan.
I know.
But
I think-
definitely find out who Dashan is.
Well, first of all,
Find out who Dashan is.
Actually happened in the wrong order.
I'm glad I'm glad I found out just what a big deal he was slightly before meeting him, so I could be impressed. That was-
Yeah.
may I say, first of all, the festival's not over, right? It will be when this is broadcast, but we're doing the Chinese finals tonight.
That's right.
I'm
We
looking
don't,
forward to
we
that.
don't know who the winner is yet.
And the Chinese semifinals, that was a great night. I mean, we had a bunch of people here, and the Chinese contestants literally came from all over China.
They did. Yeah, and,
And,
the best acts, we got kind of the best comedians as well from.
Yeah, and then we've got 8 like really solid comedians, and they'll all be here tonight, and we're doing the finals, and that'll be a highlight for me.
One interesting difference between the two competitions was the opening comic decided to roast the judges.
Oh, wow.
And actually, we had someone use the N-word in both competitions, I believe.
Soft
Yeah.
R or hard R?
Truza used it, right?
Chuzzy used it.
Truza, yeah.
And Tamby Chan.
And Tammy.
Is Tammy doing the Chinese one as well?
No, in the English one, and dropped the N-bomb.
Oh, he did, yeah.
But
Suzhou
can I
really loved
dispel a common misconception, though? I was telling my wife I'm judging the finals. Last night I sent her a WeChat saying I'm judging the finals of the English competition, which does make a lot of sense, but, budgets are limited and I'm cheap. And she said, oh, it's all the F word. And so I actually listened. Because that's what a lot of Chinese think. You can't do stand-up in China because you can't, it's all sexual humor, it's all shock humor and everything. She said to me, because my wife's from China, she said it must be all just be the F word. So I actually watched yesterday, and there was one F word that was like totally central to the joke until we got to the Japanese contestant, and he used the F word a lot.
Right.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yet other than
Yeah.
that, there were no.
By the way, Zenjiro, he's famous in Japan.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah. He's Joe helped me out here.
Yeah, he told me. He said he's like I'm big on TV, and he asked when I lived in Japan, which was back in 2002. So he was like, "Yeah, you saw me on TV, right?" I was like,
Oh, yeah.
You.
Wait a second, are you Dashan or?
What's interesting is I walked up to him, and he's from Tokyo, pretty big city, and I said, oh, I know someone in Tokyo. And he goes, who do you know in Tokyo? And I said, you know me? From Shoshin's? And he goes, I know you know me. And that night, you know me writes me. He's
No
like, oh my
way.
God, you met.
The person's name is You Know Me.
Yeah, that caught me for a moment.
It's a nickname. You know
He's
me.
fucking with you.
No, she's my friend. I'm the one who said you know me.
You know me? I know you.
No, but then he sent her a picture of us, and then she wrote me, and she's like, "Oh my God, you met Zenjiro." And I'm like,
That's crazy. And then
Zenjiro.
He snuck in.
Welcome.
"Tell them you know me is real, not legend."
Your ears are burning, right? He's sitting over there going, those fucking assholes are talking about me. Do you want to come on stage?
No, it's okay.
Okay, yeah. He's tweeting about how bad we are.
I like the portion of the show where we all sit on here awkwardly while you guys do a podcast. That was interesting.
You enjoyed that? Hey.
Or just thinking, if the audience didn't know what happens, it would be really confusing. Like, why do they have Dashan just sitting there?
Well, yeah.
It's a power
Poor
thing.
planning.
Yeah.
If Joe's questions in the "Did this happen in China" story were any indication, the planning is a little weak.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh,
You can
I
edit
like
that
this.
out.
Do people groan when they're listening to this? I wonder. I'm not really sure. It's good because we're usually in his apartment in our underpants.
Welcome back to the Shit on Joe podcast. We're gonna continue now as Andy comes up with more of my shortcomings to poke at.
I'm trying to think of the other differences. One of the other differences between the competitions was the comedians were like heckling each other at some points in
On
the
the
Chinese
Chinese
one.
side.
Yeah, they were yelling out.
Well, they're trying to help. Yeah,
and they were trying to help
They
because
were.
they knew that audience.
It was a bit. It was a bit too
off.
obvious, actually, which was
Yeah.
okay for us as judges because we knew
Sorry.
we could easily tell those are
Working my
friends, but those are not audience members.
Because audience reaction is a category that the judges judge for. So they sat in a group. and
I'm
as soon as
reacting!
They did. They really did, and they were doing it at the wrong parts as well.
Right,
They were
right.
Like, hey, my name's Church, and they're like, "You're a comedy genius!"
Wow. Wow, that's so
And
different.
then he hits a punchline, and they're all just exhausted from laughing.
Yeah.
I've got a question about, I guess, the whole nature of that stand-up that in Western worlds has been around for a lot of different, I don't know how many hundreds of years.
No, I would say 100.
But like
100 years.
I've heard of definitely Shanghai comedy and Shanghai farce and other different kind of sketch things, right? But the whole notion of this competition, and it's definitely the stand-up. It's not sketch, it's not group, but like for a Chinese performer in the Chinese competition, like is it something that is easy to do, or is it just got no definition? It's a new thing. Like, how long has Chinese
It is a new thing.
performance?
It is a new thing. And the interest, like, to get back to Storm in Australia, he said he was talking to a lot of Australians, and everyone he talked to said, "You can't do stand-up in China. It must be illegal."
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I realized that's true. Like, people outside of China think that stand-up must be illegal, and Chinese people think it must just be impossible. Right, because you can't make jokes. Everything has to be so
Without
tame and
another
everything. You
guy,
can't do
without
it.
like a straight
But
man to
I
hit
think
on.
to go back to the history of stand-up, which is really
Yeah.
not a couple of hundred years. It's post World War II. It's late 50s, early 60s.
Late 50s?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that? It's two things that really strike me about that period of history. It's the rise of individualism and the rise of counterculture,
Yeah.
which is exactly what's happening in China now. The rise
Yeah.
of individualism, the rise of counterculture. People are sick and tired of what they're seeing on TV, and they want something different.
Right.
And those are the same kind of things that gave rise to people like Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce.
Right.
There's-
Shelley Berman,
So
that whole
interesting.
crew.
There's a great book called Here's the Kicker, where a guy, Mike Sachs, interviews all these famous comedy writers, and they're super famous, top level. And the interview was with Harold Ramis, and he was talking about how his comedic mind developed being in Chicago, which was not the mainstay. They had to be something else.
Right.
They were never number one, they were something else. So they became aloof and disrespectful to authority, and that sort of laid the foundation for all the characters he wrote for Bill Murray,
Right.
which was Bill Murray's not an Animal House, but Animal House has that in it. And,
Right.
and,
Right, the sort of the schlubs versus the snobs.
and he was
versus
saying when he
slobs
first
kinda.
submitted the Animal House script, which was co-written, people that even then in America, the movie studios were like, well, they don't care about authority, like it doesn't work. I'm like, no, that's the point.
Yeah.
Is
That's-
being too cool for authority. That's what they're doing.
That's weird, though, because that's how I would describe the Marx Brothers appeal also from much earlier. It was very
Yeah.
anti-authority and
it
But
definitely
there's
grows
a
out of
difference
stuff
between-
before,
but-
but
but-
like what we know now as stand-up is sort of late 50s, early 60s.
Right.
It sort
Yeah.
of congeals. Just
But I feel like the Marx Brothers were more like cheekily poking fun at it, whereas this is just like, we don't care.
Oh, and
We're
I-
too cool for it.
I wasn't presenting the Marx Brothers as stand-up, but just because we were talking about comedy movies.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Well, I mean, the movies are not stand-up either.
Well,
Right.
me working in what I see in China as well as like working in TV is they really tend to like push positivity. Like they don't really, because Chinese media is almost forced to have all this. Like you're not allowed to really, be snarky and make fun of people, and it's like oppressively positive. And like I feel like what stand-up is also a reaction to like you want to like tear stuff down, and I mean that's what's funny. Like being positive is a funny. You know, I always try to. They always want me to write stuff that's like funny. Like do like a hilarious monologue about pollution, but like you can't say anything bad about it. I'm like, well, what? That's not funny. You can't say good things about pollution. It's funny. You have to like take it down a peg.
You know, this is actually from ICS. I was on ICS once, and they were talking about how great these dancing grannies are. And I said, you know, well, a lot of people really don't think the dancing grannies are a great thing. You know, it's kind of selfish and it disturbs other people.
What?
And they said, no, you're not allowed to say anything bad about dancing grannies.
Right.
I love dancing grannies.
You're not even allowed to like have two sides of the argument.
You don't want to piss them off, that's for sure. They will take you down.
They will. They're the worst.
I hate to derail this, but what could possibly be wrong with dancing grannies?
Yeah.
I went out and took pictures of them. I fell in love with
You've
them.
only been here 300 hours.
Yeah, you don't know damn thing about dancing
No,
grannies, man.
but educate
They
me.
took my son. Okay.
These are like mobs that take over public space
Right.
and play music really loud and just
Yeah.
force everyone to watch their absolutely worst schmaltzy dance.
I'm loving
ever.
it all so far.
Great. I can't see what's wrong with that
So-
either.
But not everybody loves it. That's the point.
Keith,
Okay.
you're from America. You're imagining 5 dancing grannies and it being amusing. We're in China. It's usually like 50 of them. And
Oh,
they'll just be like,
that's like 10 times better.
That's what I think so too.
Yeah,
I love
not if,
seeing
like,
dancing
What's worse
grannies.
than Kenny G? I'm trying to think of an example here. It's not
Yanni? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
No,
like-
nothing's
that's what
worse
they're
than Kenny G. That
It's
might
that's
be
what
what
they're
you're
dancing
looking
to.
for.
Airsats Kenny
okay.
G. But it's like more like this, Keith. Like imagine
It's the Macarena. That's what it is.
No, you put on your headphones, and then they're dancing to whatever you want, and it's fun. You just gotta.
I think you wait until you really need to get to an ATM.
Then I'm gonna.
And
hate
then
the
all of a
dancing
sudden
grannies.
you're like, oh, this should be a very easy experience.
Well, have you
but
seen them with swords?
I've
seen-
never
oh,
The ones in
seen
the
that.
park
I got a
with
picture of the
swords.
dancing grannies with swords.
now that is a dangerous ATM trip. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. You really got to. You're like, do I need this money? How bad? I can probably use a card.
I love that you were prepared to take photos of them when she clearly could have taken you down at any moment.
I got a wave from her first. No, I did. I held up my camera and I smiled at her, and she went like that. It's like click.
Joe and I were doing it. They wanted to do ICS. I think it was ICS. Someone wanted to make a kind of Daily Show style show, but not about politics. So,
Yeah, so they're-
what we had to do was we had to take popular stories on Weibo
Yeah.
and break them down with humor. Which,
But this is where I think the opportunity is, because even the internet humor in China just tends to be really, really shallow, and it's all just wacko stuff. I think
as
there's a
opposed to
market
the
here.
Western internet, which is so
Which is so civilized.
I know.
I think there's a market
Groundbreaking.
here just for like real life humor,
Yeah.
like just being honest humor.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think that's the market for it here, and that's sort of the rise of the counterculture. We're just sick and tired of the schlock on TV,
Right.
and we want a little bit of honesty in our humor.
Yeah.
and more cat videos.
And
That'd
I
be
think
great.
definitely the experience of being in a room and live experience is the tingling funny, or there's so much that can go, I guess, wrong. And with comedy you can really put yourself out there, and that sort of atmosphere in a room that doesn't come from watching a screen.
Well,
It's funny, but it's not being in the room and really hearing that laughter. And
The
being-
most obvious example of that for me is that we try to market these comedians that come out here, and most comedians have a couple of clips online or more, but you put these clips out, and so many comedians aren't that funny in a clip, and they're killers live, and we say, this is the best video we could find of this guy, and we put it out there. You were great, by the way, just in case you're sitting there thinking it. But a lot of guys who come out, and they're like, there's a video's a bit like, meh, but they get in, and they're absolute, like, monsters on stage. That's the difference between a live show and online.
Yeah, I mean, it's like music. You'll release a music album that you go record in a studio. Like, stand-up is so dependent on that live feeling that even when we do attempt to recreate it in a recorded medium, it still has to be live. It has to be in front of an audience.
Yeah.
That energy is such a part of it.
Unless you're Maria Bamford, who does it in front of her parents in her living room.
Yeah, but you're not. I mean, no one is. She's so fantastic.
But it's definitely really hard slogging in China. Like nobody is like making it yet, really.
Well,
all of the
other
groups are
than
having
you.
tough. But I'm different, right? Because
Because I'm great.
no, because
But you have such a strong history, I
because
think.
like I was talking about this theme, but people sick and tired of seeing stuff on television. Well, I've been on television for 25 years, right? So I get on stage and I just take the piss out of myself, and I can like do that for the rest of my career. It's like Larry King has been doing the same thing. He does some stand up too, right? But he's doing the same jokes that he's done for 30 years, just taking the piss out of his television image. So I mean that's kind of my advantage. But I think one thing that's really hard here to do too is the whole idea that this is a niche market. We're not trying to be mainstream. And you ever notice that Chinese businessmen never talk about niche markets? They always want to, even if they're doing a small market, like buttons, they want to do like buttons for the entire world.
We have button empire plans.
They don't have the concept of a niche market. It's
Right.
like, you can't do that because
Or
it's not mainstream.
subcultures, yeah.
Well, no,
Right.
we're not doing mainstream, and this never will be mainstream.
Well, it's not even in the West. I would say it's probably the biggest it's ever been in history, and it's still not mainstream.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think the '80s was the biggest when they were.
You think it's
doing
bigger
like-
than
Right.
now?
Different in Australia.
I
Who's
think
now,
selling out arenas like Steve Martin now?
Kevin Hart.
Is he? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I stand
Kevin
corrected.
Hart is breaking all of the records now, right now.
Okay.
He's also in every movie.
Yes.
Like that guy is in every single movie.
But he had so Russell Peters broke a bunch of records and set the record here.
But what about the
recently.
club scene in America? I mean, that's pretty healthy, the whole circuit.
It struggles from time to time. I mean, Sacramento's. God, I don't want to say anything
Is
that's
that
going to
the
get me in
benchmark?
trouble. But well, Sacramento's mainstream club is attached to San Francisco's, and I mean they have a hard time from time to time, and they have to do the papering the house with giving away tickets and relying on the 2-drink minimum. And I mean, it's not in the '80s. Sacramento, for instance, just because it's the market I'm familiar with, Sacramento had like 4 comedy clubs. You know, I mean, everybody had a comedy club in the '80s because it was just exploding. And then now we're down to the 2, and they're both they're struggling a lot of the time.
But I think probably what the difference is between then and now is that then you had stand-up comedy as an idea rising up as a popular thing, but now what you have because of the internet is people able to build individual audiences beyond
Right.
anything that ever happened before.
Well, I think that one was fueled by cable. The birth of cable gave us the first boom.
Right.
And then I think you're right. I think the internet and podcasts are now giving us this.
yeah, I
this
think
boom.
YouTube and podcasts.
I mean,
from
look at
Australian
Louis
point of view.
C.K. just did a show with Steve Buscemi and I don't know who else. There were some other people in it. I haven't seen it yet. But he didn't even make it public, and he made their agents not tell anyone they were doing it, and he sent it out through his emailing list.
Right.
Wow.
That's it. That's phenomenal. You know, like the fact that you can do that. He sold out Madison Square Gardens 4 nights in a row.
Huh, maybe the boom is as big now. No, I'm serious. I'm rethinking this.
What's your
because
day job?
we've always looked at the 80s as, and we talk to the older comics, and we look at the 80s as like, oh my God, what an amazing time. Doug Stanhope was slogging on another comedian by saying, remember the 80s when they handed anyone a career? Yeah, he grabbed one. And so we've always held that as a benchmark, and I think I missed something that was kind of right in front of me. Yeah, for
Maybe
some
it's just
people
hard to
it's
compare though
booming.
because the technology
Yeah.
and everything. The
The
80s are much
technology,
more focused, right?
And I definitely think like America, the way the American, it's very connected. And
It's super
I think-
competitive on the lower level.
Yeah,
though,
yeah. And in Australia, it's
rough.
really different. I'm not sure as familiar with the UK, but in Australia, I definitely think it's very good now. And
People from England get disgusted by what we get paid. They come out
Really?
like,
do you
for
get
real?
paid a lot or
No, for how little we get paid.
For
They,
little?
they can't believe it. Yeah.
But they're too
Oh.
polite. They're always like, "Oh, really?" So the reason why this is kind of interesting in this situation is because like Dashan has 3 million followers on Weibo. 3 million, you know, and only
not sure how
2
many are
million of them
live,
are
actually.
robots. We love you, Dashan. We met you in a 4th-tier city and had sex. but that what he's able to do now is channel that and channel a history of really doing something else into what will hopefully be releasing albums in a similar. You know what's amazing is the person that set this all up is Carlin. He was the guy. He was the guy. That
So
said-
nobody's done that in China yet, as far as I know. Like, I mean, there's only like a dozen people to know anyway. So nobody has actually done like an hour special and put it out there yet.
Right.
So like Joe Wong has come back and he's done lots of gigs and stuff, but he hasn't really done a special either. And the other guys that have done it aren't really stand-up. It's the more Chinese style of.
Can you help me out with this? Because I never really understood this because it is in Shanghainese. But there is something that looks like stand-up comedy done by a guy named Charlie Bois.
Yeah.
He's, you know,
He's
very
done
big.
giant
huge.
stadiums.
But why is there a disconnect between that and everything else? I didn't. What's he
So
doing?
first of all, he claims that he's unique. He doesn't call himself stand-up or anything. He comes from a traditional style of comedy, kind of similar to xiangsheng. It's like the
Right.
Shanghai version of xiangsheng, which is, hundreds of years old, and
Yeah.
it's a tradition that's carried on. And
tradition of not liking people who are not from Shanghai.
yeah, it's very insular kind of thing. But it's hugely popular in Shanghai. So he sort of Oh, man, he's a real character. He did jail time and everything. His career fell apart, and he left it, and he did business and made a huge amount of money, and then he came back and decided to do something new. And so he started small theaters, medium theaters, big theaters, doing this, and he just kind of hit a sweet spot.
But what is it like? Why is it different?
So it's what is it? It's basically, that's about as close as they get to stand up in China. So I actually, he won't accept it, but I treat him as sort of the first guy that really did stand up in the mainland. There's a guy in Hong Kong that's earlier than him though. Deo Wong in Hong Kong does Western style stand up in Cantonese, and he's been doing it for 25 years.
Oh wow!
So there are these precedents.
Yeah.
But not. It's still sort of we still sort of consider we're working from zero here in 2016.
When I was in Suzhou, this guy was, ridiculously helpful, unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. I just wanted to buy a charger for my phone, and he put all his stuff away and locked his store up to walk me to an ATM. So that I could buy it for $8 American. But on the way back, he's asking me what I'm doing in Suzhou, and I'm trying to tell him comedy. And he's like, "What's that?" And I mime it. I was all blah blah blah, ha ha ha. And he goes, "Music?" And I go, "No, just blah blah blah, ha ha." And he goes, "Jumping?" I'm like, "Jumping? What the fuck? Someone's touring here to jump?" But I never did succeed. I started naming big comics I could think of, and I couldn't explain to him what I was doing here.
Well, they call it toko show, which comes from the English talk show.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they all think of Oprah Winfrey as a great American comedian.
Oh, she's a blast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that also means like because
We love your comedic leader, Oprah.
she's so funny, people have cars afterwards. No, but so that happens to me a lot. So I work at the TV station, and they know I do some sort of entertainment, and so they come up to me and they'll say, they're like, "Okay, we want you to do like toko show," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." And then they're like, "So like, we'll get somebody to go up there with you, and we'll give you a theme," and I'm like, "Oh," so that it is. They really don't quite have a reference point.
It's formulaic.
Yeah.
I got screwed really badly actually. There was a TV show that I went on, a talent show.
Wasn't I a judge?
Dashan was a judge.
Yeah.
And so I was performing in Mandarin, and I was much worse than I am now, which is not great. And this guy's like, "Oh, Dashan does that style of talk show. Get him up there," and just pushes him onto the stage. And I'm trying to do my stand-up act with another person. So I'm just kind of looking at him and nodding and just doing my act. And then Dashan's got nothing to say because he doesn't know my act. And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds really interesting, you know." Then we get to the end.
Good straight man.
And he puts me through. The girl puts me through, and the third guy goes, "Yeah, you didn't really let Dashan speak." And I didn't make it through the next round.
Because you didn't let one of the judges join your act.
And I'm like, I should have said it was Danko Talk Show, which is one person talk show, but you know.
Even then, they would have been like, "It's probably better with two."
I definitely don't think I should have.
By my logic, adding more people makes it that much more funny.
Actually, the guy who won it, his prize was to be Joe's colleague, and he's miserable about that. Not a rip on Joe.
No, I know.
But
No, we're friends.
he's not super happy.
He's an improv guy. I know that. Yeah.
Dave Warner, yeah, he's a good guy, yeah.
So
that's why he won, because he's just really quick on his feet.
He's got good Chinese.
But no, the
And he
story,
sings.
the funny story is he near the finals, he went up to them like the week before the finals of that, and he was like, "So, like it's just this big American Idol style, like the backdrop, it's it's a proper
And
show."
I want to put him in a hotel for like a week.
Yeah, and then he comes up, he's like, "So if I win this, like what's my prize?" And they're like, "What do you want?" Yeah, and he was like, I guess I want a hosting job. I thought that was, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll see what we can do." It was, that's
so bizarre.
Oh man.
They told me backstage, like the actual organizers of it told me backstage, basically we can take any one of the top 10 and just hire them. We'll just do it. We'll just figure it out.
You also realize, I don't know if you saw behind the inner machinations. That show is entirely staffed by interns.
Yeah.
There was one person that actually worked in office, and it was like in the summer, so they just had this entire army of interns, and there was like...
They never followed up, right? Like, that's already 2 years ago. They didn't do one last year, as far as I know.
Well...
I mean, the
It's
success
typical.
of the first year.
It was watching all these, like, 18-year-old girls running around.
Like a gaggle of interns.
Yeah, it was messy. It
Swoop
was messy.
around.
So you
But that's
put
really
him-
typical in China. They've got their pegs, and they're just trying to put everything in the pegs. And so comedy, what they think of as comedy usually is comic dialogue. So
Right.
that's why, you got to, we'll find you a partner. And here it is.
Well, guys, thanks so much for coming out. It's been awesome. It's been really awesome.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
congratulations on the festival and the podcast for the
It
festival.
really was good enough.
It was good enough. I love that.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
know, I
take
just
that.
walked up
I'm
to
gonna put that
Andy.
for next year. Dashan says, good enough.
That's a good
And Joe, next year, if you tell the judges that they're going to be awkwardly stuck on stage with you
Yeah.
after the judging, you might have won.
Okay.
Because this is.
Well,
weird.
by the way, I came up to Andy today. I was like, so I got third place. What I win? And he goes, what do you want?